Welcome to another episode of Broken English, Straight Facts. Previously,
President Volodymyr Zelensky, who cut short his visit to Ireland and rushed home, visited a site on the city's left bank where a 9-story residential building was half destroyed. He blamed the destruction in part on a failure of allies to deliver promised air defenses. "If our partners had delivered on their promises in a timely manner, I think we could have saved more homes and lives today," said Zelensky, who looked tired and visibly frustrated. "All we ask of our partners is simply to do what we've agreed on. We're not even asking for more."
Now, I don't know whether Zelensky understands the implication of laying the blame on Ukrainian allies for not being a friend in need. All right, so we now head over to the next article. So this is by DW. This is also on the 2nd of July. So let's get right to it.
Nord Stream blast ordered by Ukraine, say German prosecutors. German prosecutors believe the Ukrainian national suspected of sabotaging Baltic Sea gas pipelines in 2022 acted on the orders of state authorities in Ukraine. Ukrainian state authorities were behind the 2022 sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines linking Russia with Europe, German prosecutors said on Thursday.
This is pretty convenient. So on the same day that Zelensky is saying the reason the Ukrainians are not able to defend against the Russian drone and missile attacks is because their European allies are not delivering on their promises for supplies and finances. Now, the Germans are bringing up the Nord Stream gas pipelines that mysteriously exploded, and we haven't gotten a definitive answer as to how that came about, right? So this is interesting. Okay.
Thursday, in a statement detailing the charges brought against suspect Serhii K. on Wednesday, prosecutors said that he and 6 accomplices had acted on the orders of state authorities in Ukraine. According to prosecutors, K., now 50, was an officer in the Ukrainian army at the time of the operation, and his accomplices were also military personnel. Prosecutors said the plan was to destroy the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines, with the objective of permanently halting gas supplies via the pipelines and preventing Russia from using the revenue from natural gas trade to finance its war efforts.
Hold on. So they're now saying that it was actually the Russians. It was actually the Ukrainians who sabotaged the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines, and that the goal was to prevent the opening of the pipelines because the Russians were going to be directly supplying oil to Germany across is it the Baltic Seas? I forget. And so, because this was going to be generating revenue for the Russians, the Ukrainians decided to sabotage that in an attempt to cripple Russia's finances, which would mean that it would slow down their war efforts. So this is a pipeline between Russia and Germany, okay? So Russia here is quote unquote the aggressor, and Germany is an ally of Ukraine. So the Ukrainians seem to have worked it out that if they take out the Nord Stream pipelines, then Germany will no longer have an excuse for its hesitation to fully back Ukraine in its defensive war against the Russians. And at the same time, the Russians would be deprived of revenue that would enable them to sustain a long-term campaign against the Ukrainians. So this is really explosive, if you ask me, that it should be coming out about the same day that Russia is successfully sending missiles and drones into Ukraine and knocking down about 130 buildings. And of course, unfortunately, leaving lots of casualties in Kiev. So what the heck is going on here?
Germany is one of the biggest military backers of Ukraine in its battle against the ongoing Russian invasion, making the incident potentially diplomatically awkward. Before the war, Germany covered a considerable part of its energy needs with fuel and gas from Russia. Ukrainian authorities said they lacked sufficient information about the case to respond in detail to the German prosecutor's allegations.
Ah, man. So this potentially puts Ukraine in a position where it made an indirect attack on Germany because the Nord Stream pipeline are jointly funded by Germany and the Russians. It's part of a bilateral agreement between countries, and the Ukrainians decided to take it out. And so it's funny to me that the Ukrainian authorities here are now saying that they don't have sufficient information about the case, when in reality, they sent their own guys on the mission. So how do you suddenly go, well, I don't know. Oh man, this is bad. This is really bad.
Detailing how the operation allegedly took place, prosecutors said K and his team traveled from Ukraine to Germany on fake Ukrainian passports and hired a yacht, the Andromeda, from a German company in the northern city of Rostock. Investigators reportedly discovered traces of the military explosives HMX and RDX on board the Andromeda, which were attached with timers to the underwater pipelines near the Danish island of Bornholm by September 22, 2022. The explosives detonated 4 days later, on September 26, causing significant damage. The pipelines were not in operation at the time. Before the incident, around half of Germany's annual supply of natural gas was transported via Nord Stream 1, said prosecutors.
They've even got forensic evidence to tie the Ukrainians to this potential terrorist attack because I think this is an act of terror. And for the fact that Germany was getting around half of its annual supply of natural gas through or via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, I do not see how the Germans are not looking to prosecute this as an act of terror. That this is an ally actively sabotaging an infrastructure that is critical to your national security. So, man, it makes the Zelensky guy look a little bit shady because you're sending people out on side quests, having them attack your allies, while at the same time bashing your allies for not doing enough to support you in a war you're currently engaged in with a mutual enemy. It's starting to feel like the drama you watch on reality TV or one of your friends who's in a toxic relationship, you know? And it just doesn't make sense to you how they're able to keep going even after all these years. So that's what it's looking like to me here. Ah, oh man, yo, Ukrainians are wild. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so it's fascinating that this comes out on the same day that the Ukrainians are saying that the recent attacks by Russia would not have been successful had the allies been holding their end of the bargain. So, I guess my earlier take stands. Choose your friends wisely. Damn, bruh.
Thank you for watching this episode of Broken English Straight Facts.